Why are you here? I believe that finding meaning in one's life is fundamental to a life well lived. For example, I am here to teach. Teaching is not merely what I do. A teacher is who I am. It took my voluntarily abandoning the perfect job, filled with privileges nearly beyond belief, for me to discover my purpose in life. A friend of mine was an attorney. Successfully battling the asbestos industry and the fossil fuel cabal, he earned enough money to retire young. Yet he continued to seek justice for the remainder of his life. Until he died, he found meaning in the pursuit of justice. As a broadly knowledgeable scholar, my friend was familiar with Socrates and his famous 6 questions. Socrates spent virtually his entire life asking, in some form, 6 questions. What is justice? What is moderation? What is virtue? What is piety? What is courage? What is good? Like me, my friend the attorney thought about how he would spend this one short life. Not to become wealthy, mind you, but to become useful in the spirit of American transcendentalist philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson. Quote, "The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived, and lived well." End quote. Long before Emerson wandered the hills and valleys of New England, Aristotle was a student of Socrates who came up with my favorite definition of friendship. Aristotle claimed, and I agree, that friends are people working together for the common good. Not drinking buddies, mind you. People working together for the common good. Imagine. Stoicism is a practice and way of life from ancient Greece. It is relevant today. Let's take a brief look at the 4 pillars of Stoicism, stated here as the 4 A's of Stoicism. Stoic acceptance is about accepting that which is beyond one's control. Human minds are inclined toward agonizing over the future or the past. We can spend hours ruminating over completely fictional events, or events over which we have no control. Renowned Stoic Seneca reminds us to remain in the present moment, recognizing that what is out of our hands we must accept as beyond our control. To quote Seneca, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future, not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient, for he that is so wants nothing." End quote. Again, he that is so wants nothing. He or she who is satisfied with what is sufficient wants for nothing. Stoic awareness builds on Stoic acceptance. The crucial idea behind awareness is to recognize that in most cases it is our mind that causes suffering. Instead of trapping ourselves in our minds, we can take responsibility for our thoughts and actions. This concept is well suited to my lifelong pursuit of anarchism. These 2 tenets of Stoicism, acceptance and awareness, focus on the mind. The discipline of action is the natural follow-up step, as it is about taking right action in the world. Acceptance and awareness are useless if they are not combined with relevant actions. As Marcus Aurelius tells us, quote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." End quote. To the limited extent that we have free will, we have control over our character. Over time, through daily actions, we develop habits. It's up to us to act wisely, moderately, with courage and justice. In other words, how we act is not in the hands of other people. We are accountable. Again, this pillar of Stoicism is well matched to my lifelong pursuit of anarchism. As desert anarchist Edward Abbey pointed out, quote, "Death is every man's final critic. To die well, you must live bravely." End quote. Finally, to add a 4th A to the pillars of Stoicism, the Stoics were anti-fragile. Instead of simply being resilient and merely surviving, Stoics were and are driven by stressors. This led Nassim Taleb to label the Stoics, quote, "Buddhists with an attitude," end quote. Anti-fragility helps us get out of our heads. When we are about to fall into a negative action, instead of asking, "How can I make this go away?" Stoics ask, how can I use this to drive action? Relevant action then follows. Accepting what we cannot change does matter, but it is also important to pursue that which is good, whatever obstacles we might encounter. We must be careful not to reach acceptance when, instead, we can achieve something better. A win is better than a draw. Each of these aspects of Stoicism, acceptance, awareness, action, and anti-fragility, reinforce one another. We can take a much deeper look into each of these pillars, but this broad overview is enough for today's introduction. Collectively, the pillars of Stoicism encourage a decent, self-aware life characterized by service to others while adhering to moral principles. It can be easy to become distracted by our peers, the media, and our own emotions, and therefore forget about how we live. This is why Stoic acceptance and awareness are so important for action. Ultimately, of course, our actions matter most of all. Regarding how we live and how we act in the face of our imminent demise, I continue to encourage the principled pursuit of the common good. Without the common good and the struggle on its behalf, there can be no Aristotelian friendship. That is, there can be no friends working together for the common good. Without the common good and the struggle on its behalf, there can be no justice, and there can be no virtue. Therefore, I am forced to conclude that more than 15,000 generations into the human experience, with the end of humanity in clear view, our shared goal must be the common good. I further conclude that as friends, we reveal our differences, we appreciate our differences, and then we set them aside for the common good. Yes, we will struggle. Life is often difficult after all. May we struggle together for the common good. In the end, for finite beings such as ourselves, the historical process is irrelevant. All we have is our legacy, but that legacy is lost to us as individuals. Yet we are able to recognize the historical process as something larger than ourselves. We judge that process worthy or not worthy based on our own singular experience. In other words, we judge the universe. Fortunately, it doesn't judge us back. For me, the universe and my life are worthy endeavors because the lens through which I view my life is colored with the relationships I have experienced. These relationships include those with humans and also with nature. All the Socratic ideals are born again in the love we feel for each other, for our families and tribes, and for the natural world. Walking a path that honors the living planet and ourselves is a responsibility we share, you and I. A responsibility unlike any other in human history. And it is not just a responsibility, but also something more. It is a joy and a privilege.